Hello everyone, welcome to the English YouTuber. Today we are going to discuss the story Atithi or the Guest written by Rabindranath Tagore. So this is a very poignant story of a boy named Tarapada who is a restless spirit, a wanderer who cannot be contained by societal norms. The story uses symbolism like the stream where he says that he cannot be contained in societal norms and relationships and prefers non attachment and liberty of freedom. So, first, we will go through the line by line explanation of the story and then we will discuss the various themes in this story. So, let's begin. So, in some stories, the name is written as Motilal Babu, and in some stories, it is written as Matilal Babu. So, since in your textbooks it is Motilal Babu, I will be reading it like that. Motilal Babu, Zamindar of Katalia, was returning home with his family by boat. One afternoon, he moored the boat near a riverside market. So moored means tie up or secure so that their meal could be prepared. A Brahmin boy came over and asked, "Where are you going, Babu?" The boy was not more than 15 or 16. Katalya, replied Motilal Babu. "Could you drop me at Nandigram on the way?" Motilal consented. So consented means agreed. "What's your name?" he asked. "Tarapada," said the boy. The fair-skinned boy was beautiful to look at. His smile and his large eyes had the grace of youth. His body, bare except for a stained dhoti, was free of any excess, as if lovingly carved by a sculptor, or as if in a previous life he had been a young sage whose pure religious devotion had removed all grossness, honed him to gleaming Brahmanical perfection. So, grossness means any kind of coarseness, and honed him means perfected him to gleaming Brahmanical perfection. So, Brahmanical perfection means a state of purity, knowledge, and high moral standard which is associated with a Brahmin. So here when we see that he was free of any excess, itself portrays that he was an untethered soul. He was a free soul without any kind of burdens. "Come and wash, Baba," said Motilal Babu tenderly. "You can eat with us." So Motilal Babu invited him to join them and that he would drop them at Nandigram. So through the description of the boy, we can come to know about his purity, his detachment from material possessions, and how that he was a different person from his peers or people of his age group because he was around 15 or 16. "Leave that to me," said Tarapada, and without a moment's hesitation, he joined in the cooking. Motilal's servant was Hindustani. He was not very good at cutting up fish. Tarapada took over and soon had the dish ready and had cooked some vegetables too with practiced skill. He then took a dip in the river and opening his bundle produced a clean white garment and a small wooden comb. He sleeked his long hair away from his forehead and down to his neck, adjusting his glistening sacred thread and stepped on the boat. So this shows how adept means what an expert or proficient he was at work and also shows that he was quite experienced for his age. Motilal Babu invited him into the cabin. His wife and his 9-year-old daughter were there. His wife Annapurna was tenderly attracted to the boy when she saw him and wondered whose child is he. So her maternal instincts were awakened and she was immediately tenderly attracted to the boy and she was anxious to know whose child was he and where he had come from. How could his mother bear to abandon him? So all of this are her maternal instincts which is making her think so. She placed mats for Motilal and the boy to sit on side by side. The boy was not a big eater. Annapurna felt he must be shy and tried to get him to eat this or that. But when he had finished, he would not be tempted to more. So this shows what a simple living the boy had. But when he had finished, okay, he clearly did everything according to his own wishes, but with such ease that there was nothing assertive about him. Assertive means nothing that was overconfident or did not show a forceful personality. He was not at all shy. So here itself it shows that he did everything according to his own wishes and he could not be coaxed in doing something that he did not want to do. So he was a free spirited person. When everyone had eaten, Annapurna sat him next to her and asked him about his background. She didn't gather much, so he did not disclose much information. All she could establish was that the boy had run away from home on his own volition. So, volition means on his own will at the age of 7 or 8. So she asked him, "Isn't your mother alive?" asked Annapurna. So, because she was a mother, she was anxious to know why the boy had left his home at such a tender age. "She is," said Tarapada. "Doesn't she love you?" asked Annapurna. Tarapada seemed to find this question peculiar. "Why shouldn't she love me?" he said, laughing. "Then why did you leave her?" said Annapurna. So she couldn't bear the thought of a child living away from his mother. "She has 4 more sons and 3 daughters," said Tarapada. Pained by this odd reply, Annapurna said, "What a thing to say! Just because I have 5 fingers, does it mean that I want to chop one off?" So, since the mother was bound in a life of family, she could not imagine why the boy had decided to leave home away from his family. Tarapada was young, so his life story was brief, but the boy was a complete original. So, brief means short. He was his parents' fourth son and was still a baby when his father died. Despite there being so many in the house, Tarapada was the darling of all. Mother, brothers, sisters, neighbors dotted on him. So, dotted means love someone so much or excessively to the point of ignoring faults. So much so that his tutor never beat him. Everyone would have been appalled if he had. Appalled means horrified. So everybody loved him so much that even the tutor would not beat him. There was no reason for him to leave. So, one of the normal reasons for a boy of such a young age of 8 years to leave the home would be that he would be beaten at home or he would be tortured by people. But here there was no reason for him to leave because he was loved by everybody. Half starved boys who constantly stole fruit from trees and were thrashed by the owners of the trees. They never strayed from the village. Strayed means moved away from the village or their scolding mothers. So the other boys were half starved. Their tummies were never full and they had to resort to stealing fruits from other orchards and they were thrashed by the owners for doing so. But in spite of such dire reasons also, they never strayed from the village. And even their mothers were scolding. But this darling of everyone joined a touring yatra troupe and left his village without a thought. So in certain books, it is Jatra troops. So Jatra troops are these traveling troops who perform Jatra, which is a traditional Bengali folk theatre. So he joined and them the Jatra troupe and left his village without a moment of hesitation. This shows that no kind of emotional bondage could attach him to a particular place. Search parties went out and he was brought back. His mother pressed him to her breast and drenched him with tears. She was really emotional and she held him to her chest and cried. His sisters wept too, so everyone were emotional. His elder brother tried to perform his duty as guardian because he did not have a father. But he soon abandoned his feeble attempts at discipline and welcomed him back with open arms. So, though he tried to discipline him, there was no way that could happen. Women invited him to their houses, plied him with even greater displays of affection. So, plied means give something in very large amounts. But he would not accept ties. So, this is his personality. He did not want to be bound or tethered to any place, not even attachment of love. His stars had made him a wanderer. So he was a wanderer and cannot be kept at one place, not even by love. If he saw strange boats on the river or a sannyasi from a distant region, so sannyasi is a hermit or a Hindu ascetic from a distant region under the local peepal tree, or if gypsy sat by the river making mats or wicker basket, his heart would stir with longing to be free. So he had a longing to be free and not bound, to explore the outside world. That is why he is called a wanderer. And after he had run away 2 or 3 times, the family and villagers gave up hope of him. So they knew that they cannot bound him and keep him in a particular place. Again, he joined a Jatra troupe at first. But when the master of the troupe began to treat him almost like a son, and the members of the troupe, young and old, had all fallen for him, and even the people in the houses where they performed, especially the women, began to make a special fuss of him, one day, without saying a word, he disappeared and could not be found. So, as soon as he realized that emotional bonds were forming, he would leave that particular place because he wanted non attachment and personal freedom from all kinds of emotions. Tarpada was as wary of ties as a young fawn. So, just like how a young fawn is very cautious, even Tarapada was very cautious of ties or bandhan and was also like a deer in his love of music. The song of the Jatra were what had first lured, lured means attracted him away from home. Melody sent a trembling through his veins, and rhythms made his body swing. Even as a baby, he had shown such solemn, grown up attention at musical gatherings, sitting and swaying and forgetting himself, that his elders could hardly restrain their amusement. Not only music, when the rain of Shravan fell on the thick leaves, when the clouds thundered, when the wind moaned in the woods like a motherless demon child, his heart was swept away. So he was enchanted by music and also by nature. So he was not attracted to materialistic possessions like other humans, but more by nature and the beauty of nature and music. The call of a kite high in the sky in the still heat of noon, the croaking of frogs on rainy evenings, the howling of jackals at night, all entranced him. Impelled by this passion for music, it was not long before he had joined a group of Panchali singers. So he was compelled by this passion for music, which made him join a group of Panchali singers. The leader of the group carefully taught him songs and trained him to recite Panchali by heart. He too began to love him as his own. So, when he tried to love him as his own, there was a kind of attachment. That is why he says, like a pet cage bird. So, he felt trapped because of that relation. But like a pet cage bird, Tarpada learnt a few songs and then one morning flew away. So again, he went towards his freedom. He did not want to be caged because of that love and that relationship. Finally, he joined a troupe of gymnasts from Jeshta to Asar. So Jeshta is late May to mid June and Asar means mid June to July. A fair toured the district. Jatra troops, Panchali singers, bards, dancers, and stall holders traveled by boat from one side to the another. Stall holders means who kept temporary stalls in markets. For the second year running, this round of entertainment included a small gymnastic troupe from Calcutta. At first, Tharpada joined the stallholders, sold pan at the fair. But then his natural curiosity drew him to the wonderful skills of the gymnast and he joined their troupe. He had taught himself to play the flute very well. During the gymnastic display, he had to play Lucknow Thumris at top speed on the flute, and this was his only task. So, Thumris means it's an Indian classical music. So, he was given the opportunity to play the Lucknow Thumris at top speed on the flute. It was from this troupe that he had most recently absconded. Now he had also left that troupe and he had come here. He had heard that the zamindars at Nandigram had founded on a lavish scale an amateur jatra group, so he tied up his bundle and headed for the place, meeting Motilal Babu on the way. So this is his backstory of how he had left home, how he had joined various troops and learned a lot of things, but stayed aloof and did not get influenced or attached to them. Despite these connections with various groups, his nature had not been corrupted by any. So he was not corrupted by anybody. He was deep down entirely detached and free. So this is his personality. The foul language he had heard, the dreadful sights he had seen, had not fixed themselves on his mind. They passed him by. He remained unbound by any kind of habit or custom. He swam in the murky waters of the world with pure white wings like a swan. So, here simile is used and he is compared to a swan, saying that just like how a swan swims in the dirty waters of the world, but still he remains pure and white, just like the swan. However, many times his curiosity made him dive in, his wings could not be soaked or soiled. However, sometimes he was curious and his curiosity led him to dive in, but still he was not corrupted in any way. There was a pure and natural innocence in this runaway boy's expression. So much so that the worldly wise Motilal Babu invited him without doubt or question and with great tenderness. So Motilal Babu was also a very wise person, and he recognized the purity and the innocence of this boy, and without doubt or any kind of question, he invited this boy. So this part is really important. It gives the description of how the boy is different, and how, in spite of various experiences in his life, where usually boys of that age are quite naive and can easily be influenced, he did not get influenced by any kind of negative environment. In the afternoon, the boat set sail. Annapurna continued to ask the boy kind questions about his home and family. He answered laconically and then went out on the deck to escape. So just as Annapurna was getting interrogated, Tarapada escaped to the deck. The monsoon river, swollen to maximum fullness, seemed to harry the earth with its reckless turbulence. Reckless means careless. In the cloudless sunshine, the half sunk reeds along the bank, the fields of succulent sugarcane beyond, succulent is delicious, and the far off bluey green woods kissed the horizon, seemed transformed by the touch of a golden wand into new beauty. The speechless sky gazed down in wonder. Everything was alive, throbbing, awash with confident light, shiny with newness, bursting with plenty. So it talks about the beauty of nature and how everything is abundant and alive and beautiful. Tarapada took refuge on the roof of the boat, in the shade of the sail. Sloping pastures, flooded jute fields, green, rippling late autumn paddy, narrow paths leading from the ghats and the villages, shaded by encircling foliage. Foliage means leaves, came one by one into view. To this water, earth, and sky, this movement of life and sound, these varied levels and vast vistas. So, vistas means pleasing views. To this huge, immovable, mute, unblinking natural world, the boy was intimately linked. So, the boy was inextricably linked to this beautiful part of nature. Yet, not for a moment did it try to hold him with its loving embrace. So, this is why he feels that nature is something that is attracting him so much, because when we humans love someone, there is a kind of bondage, but it is not there in nature. Calves running on the banks with tails upraised, ponies grazing and hopping about with hobbled legs, kingfishers swooping from fishing net poles to plop into the water to catch fish, boys splashing, women shrilly chatting as they stood chest deep, floating their saris out in front to rub them clean, fishwives with baskets, saris tucked up, buying fish from the fishermen. All of this Tarapada watched with unflagging curiosity. Never were his eyes sated. So Tarapada watched all of this with a never ending desire of curiosity, and his eyes were never satisfied. As he sat, he soon got talking with the helmsman and oarsman. Sometimes he took the lagi and punted the boat himself. When the helmsman needed a smoke, he would take the tiller. When the sail needed to be turned, he helped skillfully. Just before dusk, Annapurna called Tarapada and asked, "What do you like to eat at night?" Whatever I get, said Tarapada. I don't eat every day. So he's not like the other people who live in the society who follow a particular routine of having so many meals a day. She felt disturbed by this beautiful Brahmin boy's indifference to her hospitality. So see, she when she gave a lot of love and when she did not get it in return, she felt disturbed. So this is what happens when we give love to someone, we expect something in return, but nature isn't like that. She longed to feed, clothe, and give succor to him. So, succor means aid or help, especially during times of distress. But she could not discover how to please him. She ostentatiously sent her servants to buy milk and sweets. So, ostentatiously means in a pretentious manner, especially to impress someone. Tarapada ate the sweets willingly enough, but he would not touch the milk. Even the taciturn Motilal urged him to drink it, but he simply replied, I don't like it. So taciturn means reserved. 3 days passed. Tarapada expertly joined in everything from the cooking and the shopping to the sailing of the boat. Anything he saw interested him, and work that he did absorbed him. His sight, his hands, his mind were ever active. Like nature herself was always serene and detached, yet always busy. So here he is compared to nature, where nature is always serene, is calm and detached, yet always busy. People usually dwell in a fixed place, but Tarapada was like a joyous wave on life's unending stream. Again, very important part. So people usually dwell in fixed places where they live in one particular place and they are not nomads. But Tarapada was compared to the joyous wave on an unending stream. Past or future meant nothing. Moving forward was the only thing that mattered to him. By mixing with various groups, he had learned all sorts of delightful accomplishments. Things were stamped on his mind with astonishing ease, unclouded as it was by any kind of worry. So he was not clouded by any kind of worry. He was free and detached. He knew Panchali, folk tales, kirtan, and long pieces from jatras. Motilal Babu habitually read the Ramayana to his wife and daughter. One evening, he had just got to the story of Kush and love when Tarapada, unable to restrain means control himself, came down from the roof of the boat and said, Put the book away. I know a song about Kush and love. Listen. He began a Panchali. Dashure's verse, sweet as a flute, flowed on swiftly. The helmsman and oarsmen came and peered through the doors of the cabin. As dusk fell, a stream of laughter, pathos means poignancy or sadness, and music spread through the evening air. The banks became alert, and people in passing boats were lured means attracted for a moment, and strained their ears to listen. When the Panchali had finished, everyone sighed deeply, wishing it would last forever. The tearful Annapurna longed to take the boy and press him to her breast and bury her face in his hair. So, just like his own mother, the same gesture is felt by Annapurna. Motilal Babu thought, if I could somehow keep this boy, so now they want to keep this boy, he would make up for me having no son. The little girl Charu Shashi, though, was full of envy and jealousy. So the little girl who was 9 years old, she felt a surge of envy and jealousy because her parents longed for the boy. She was her parents' only child, sole claimant on their affection. So until then, she was the only child and she would get all the love of her parents. There was no end to her willfulness and obstinacy. So obstinacy means stubbornness. So because she was the only child, she was pampered a lot. She had her own opinions about food, clothes, and hairstyles, but there was no consistency in them. Whenever she was invited out, her mother was terrified that she would make impossible demands over dress. If her hairstyle displeased her, to do and redo it made no difference and merely led to a tantrum. She was like this with everything. But if she was in a good mood, she was amenable to anything. So her moods were quite polar and would show excessive love for her mother, hugging her, kissing her, laughing in an unbalanced way. The girl was a puzzle. So this shows that she was a single child and had a personality that was very difficult to predict. But now her volatile feelings began to concentrate in fierce animosity towards Tarapada. So, animosity is strong hostility against him. And she caused exceptional trouble to her parents. At meals, she scowled and pushed her plate away. So, scowled is having an annoyed expression. She would complain about the cooking, slap the maid, and object to everything. The more that Tarapada's accomplishments impressed her and others, the more angry she became. She would not admit that he had any virtues at all. Undeniable evidence of them made her even more critical. On the night that Tarpada sang about Kush and love, Annapurna thought, wild animals can be tamed by music. So perhaps my daughter will soften. So Annapurna thought that the music could placate Charu, but it did not. Placate means pacify or calm her. So the character of this girl shows how complex feelings children have and how difficult it is for them to manage or to control these feelings. How did you like it, Charu? She asked. She gave no answer, merely tossed her head, implying, I didn't like it at all and shall never like it. So, this shows her annoyance as well as defiance that she did not like it and that also that she will never like it. Realizing that Charu was jealous, her mother stopped showing affection for Tarapada in front of her. After dark, when Charu had gone to bed after eating early, Annapurna would sit by the door of the cabin and Motilal Babu and Tarpada would sit outside, and at Annapurna's request, Tarpada would sing. So this shows the various changes in the family dynamics after the guest had come to their house. With his singing, the goddess of the sleeping, darkened homes on the bank would sink into a trance, and Annapurna's heart swelled with love and appreciation. But Charu would get up and shout tearfully and angrily, Mother, I can't get to sleep with this noise. She found it quite unbearable to be sent to bed on her own while her parents sat and listened to Tarapada singing. So this shows her annoyance, her jealousy, because now her parents were spending a lot of time with the guest and not with their own daughter. The natural fierceness of this fiery black eyed girl fascinated Tarapada. He would tell her stories, sing her songs, play her the flute, make great efforts to win her round. See, whenever he would get a lot of love, he would run away from that particular place. But here He was making great efforts to win her round because she was the only girl who was not fascinated by him, but with no success at all. Only in the afternoons when he bathed in the swollen river, sporting his fair, pure body in a swimming display worthy of a young water god, only then could she not help being attracted just a little bit. She would watch him then, but she didn't reveal her interest to anyone. And, born actress that she was, carried on knitting a woolen scarf with apparent indifference to Tarapada's water sports. So even if she was getting a little attracted to him when he would wash himself in the river, still she never accepted or displayed her feelings and only showed indifference. Tarapada took no notice of Nandigram when they passed it. So he was supposed to get down in Nandigram, but he did not notice it. The large boat, sometimes with its sails up, sometimes towed, proceeded slowly on down rivers and tributaries, and the days of the passengers to flowed with a soft and easy pace through the peace and beauty of the sea. No one was in any kind of hurry. Long afternoons were spent bathing and eating, and as soon as dusk fell, the boats were moored at a village ghat by trees buzzing with crickets and aglow with fireflies. After about 10 days of this, the boat arrived at Catalia. Ponies and a palanquin was sent from the house to receive the zamindar. A guard of honor with bamboo lathis, lathis means sticks, fired rounds of blanks, raucously echoed by the village crows. So raucously means in a very loud and energetic noise. So the boy did not get down at Nandigram, but he reached with the family to Catalia. Meanwhile, Tarapada slipped off the boat and quickly looked around the village, calling one villager Dada. So, what does Dada mean? Brother. Another Kura. Kura means uncle. Another Didi. Didi means sister. And another Masi. Masi means aunt. He established friendly relations with everyone in a couple of hours. Because he had no normal ties, he could get to know people with amazing ease and speed. So when we mingle with people, we have a kind of hesitation. But since he had no normal ties with anybody, he was very free and he had a wonderful ease to mix with people and also the speed. Within a few days, he had won all hearts. He mixed with everyone on equal terms, so he did not have any kind of discrimination. He was unconventional. Yes. So this is something that we know about him. He was not the conventional type of boy, yet able to adapt to any situation or work. With boys, he was a boy, yet somehow separate and special. With old people, he was not yet not too precocious either. Precocious means advanced before the normal age. With herders, he was a herder, yet also a Brahmin. He joined in with things as if used to them all his life. He'll be chatting in the sweet shop. The sweet maker would say, "Could you mind the shop for a while? I shan't be long." Cool as a cucumber, Tarapada sat there keeping the flies off the sandesh with a sal leaf. He could even make sweets himself, knew something of weaving, and was not completely ignorant of how to turn a potter's wheel. So he was quite talented and knew everything. Tarapada reigned over the whole village. There was just one young girl whose hatred he simply could not overcome. So, as usual in all his life, he was loved by everyone and he liked winning everybody's heart. But here there was one girl whose hatred he could not overcome. Perhaps it was because this girl was so fiercely wished him to leave that he stayed on for so long. So this was the reason why he stayed on for so long. Otherwise, when he was loved by everybody, he would leave. But Charu Shashi now proved how hard it is to fathom even a juvenile female's mind. So Charu Shashi showed how hard it is to understand even a young female's mind. Forget an adult female's. Bamunta Krun's daughter Sonamani had been widowed at the age of 5. So here it also shows the various pitfalls that are in society where she was widowed at the tender age of 5. She was Charu's playmate. She had been ill for a while and had not been able to go out to see her friend. When she was recovered and came to see her, a rift between them came about for almost no reason. Rift means a problem, a difference. Charu had been speaking at length about Tarapada, so this could be the reason. She was now jealous. She hoped by saying what a precious asset he was to astonish and intrigue her friend. So she thought by speaking at length about Tarapada, it would astonish and intrigue her friend. But when she discovered he was known to Sonamani, that he called Bamuntakrun's Masi and that Sonamani called him Dada, when she heard that he not only treated mother and daughter to kirtan tunes on his flute, but had, at Sonamani's request, made her a bamboo flute, that he had picked her fruits from high branches and flowers from thorny ones. When she heard all this, darts of fire stabbed her. Oh my God. So she was really jealous now. When her friend was talking about Tarapada and also that he was doing a favor to them. She had thought of Tarapada as their Tarapada. So this is what happens. Possessiveness and a feeling that this person belongs to you and only you. Guard it closely so that ordinary people might glimpse him yet never be able to grasp him. They would admire his beauty and talents from a distance, and Charu Shashi's family would gain glory thereby. Why should Sonamani have such easy contact with this singular, divinely favored Brahmin boy? If Charu's family had not taken him in, had not looked after him so, how would Sonamani ever have seen him? Sonamani's Dada indeed. She burned all over at that thought. So she was feeling that he was only their possession and that he should not be shared with anybody else. Why was the Charu who had tried to strike the boy down with arrows of hatred so anxious to claim sole rights over him? Understand this who will. So, someone who hated him so much now wanted to claim sole rights over him. Later that day, Charu had a serious rift with Sonamani over another trivial matter. So these are all actually not the reason why Charu is having a rift with Sonamani. It is because of Tarapada. She marched into Tarapada's room, found his beloved flute, and callously jumped and stamped on it. She was still doing so when Tarapada came in. He was amazed by the image of destruction that the girl presented. Charu, why are you smashing my flute? He asked. I want to smash it. I am going to smash it, shouted Charu with red eyes and flushed face, and stamping unnecessarily on the already smashed flute. She burst into loud sobs and ran from the room. Tarapada picked up the pieces, turned them this way and that, but it was useless. To wreak destruction on his old innocent flute was so absurd that he burst out laughing. Charushashi intrigued him more every day. So he was intrigued by the personality of Charu. He was also intrigued by the English illustrated book in Motilal Babu's library. Tarapada had considerable knowledge of the world because he traveled a lot, but he could not enter the world of these pictures at all. He tried to do so in his imagination but found no satisfaction in this. Seeing his interest in these books, Motilal said one day, "Would you like to learn English? You will understand these pictures then." "I would like to learn it," he replied at once. Motilal Babu happily engaged the headmaster of the village secondary school, Ram Ratan Babu, to teach the boy English each evening. So, since Tarapada was a very curious youngster, he also wanted to understand these pictures, and that is why he wanted to learn the English language. Tarapada set about learning English with great concentration and retention. It released him into a hitherto inaccessible realm. So, hitherto means previously inaccessible realm. So, this was an area which he really could not understand, but now he had gained access to it. That was unconnected with his former world. The local people saw no more of him. At dusk, when he went to the empty riverside to pace swiftly up and down, reciting his lessons, his boyish devotees mournfully watched from a distance. They dared not disturb his studies. So now people did not see him because he was so indulged in learning the language. Charu too did not see much of him now. Formerly, Tarapada ate in the women's quarters under Annapurna's loving gaze. But because this could take a long time, he asked Motilal Babu to arrange for him to eat outside them. Annapurna was hurt by this and objected. See, this is what happens when we pour our love unconditionally to someone. We feel hurt. But Motilal was so pleased by Tarapada's keenness to learn that he agreed to the new arrangement. Charu now insisted that she too wanted to learn English. At first, her parents were amused by their wayward daughter's new idea. So, what is the meaning of the word wayward? Someone who's difficult to control or predict. So, first they lovingly laughed at it, but its absurdity was soon washed away by tears. Doting parents that they were forced to give in because of the willful behavior of their daughter. They were forced to give in, and she started to study alongside Tarapada with the same tutor. Study, however, was alien to her restless nature. She learned nothing herself, merely disrupted Tarapada's learning. She fell far behind, couldn't learn anything by heart, but couldn't bear to be behind. So she was also competing with him. She was finding it difficult. She did not have the natural flair of learning, but still she could not bear that he was going ahead of her. If Tarapada overtook her and moved on to a new lesson, she was furious and burst into tears. When he finished an old book and bought a new one, she had to buy the new book too. In his spare time, he would sit in his room learning and writing his lessons. The jealous girl couldn't stand that. She would secretly come and pour ink on his exercise books, steal his pen, even tear from the book the passage he had been set to learn. Tarapada bore most of this with amusement. So he was amused by her reactions. If she went too far, he slapped her, but he was quite unable to control her. So this girl was beyond his control. A chance occurrence saved him. One day, truly annoyed, he tore up his ink spilled exercise book and sat gloomily. Charu came to the door and prepared herself for a beating, but nothing happened. Tarapada went on sitting in silence. The girl went in and out of the room several times. She came so close that Tarapada could, if he had wished, easily have thwacked her on the back. But he did not do that and remained solemn. The girl was in a quandary. Quandary means in a state of dilemma. What has happened? How to ask for forgiveness was something she had never learned, yet she was extremely anxious for forgiveness. So asking forgiveness was something really alien to her, but she wanted forgiveness. Finally, seeing no other way, she took a piece of the torn exercise book, sat down next to Tarapada, and wrote in large round letters, "I will never pour ink on your exercise book again." She then made elaborate efforts to attract his attention. At this, Tarapada could not contain himself anymore. So he could not control himself anymore, and he burst out laughing. The girl dashed from the room, overcome with shame and anger. Only if she had been able to expunge from all time the paper on which she had humbled herself would her fury have been eased. So now she felt shame and anger because he had laughed at her for her forgiveness. And she wanted to completely remove the paper on which she had actually humbled herself. Only then would her anger cease. During this period, Sonamani had once or twice, with her heart in her mouth, lurked outside the lesson room. She was close to her friend Charushashi in most matters, but with regard to Tarapada, she feared and distrusted her. At moments when Charu was in the women's quarter, she would stand timidly outside Tarapada's door. He would look up from his book and say tenderly, "What is it, Sona? What's up? How's Masi?" Sonamani would say, "You haven't been to see us for a long time. Mother wishes you would sometime. She has backache, so she can't come to you." Charu would perhaps now appear. Sonamani was flustered. She felt like a thief. Charu would scowl and shriek at her. "Well, Sona, coming to disturb our studies, I'll tell my father." As if she herself was Tarapada's guardian, whose sole object was to watch him day and night in case his studies were disturbed. So, look at the irony of the situation. She was the one who would disturb him, but when others would come, she would act like a guardian and act like her sole objective was to protect him from any kind of disturbance in his studies. But God was not unaware of what her actual motive was in coming to Tarapada's room at this odd time. And Tarapada also knew it well. Poor Sonamani fumbled for false explanations. When Charu venomously called her a liar, she withdrew, sick at heart, defeated. So even Sonamani had a liking towards Tarapada. The kindly Tarapada would call her and say, "Sona, I'll come to your house this evening." Charu hissed back like a snake. "How can you go? What about your lessons?" "I'll tell Master Muse." Means I will tell the teacher. Undaunted by Charu's threat. So he's unaffected. Tarapada spent a couple of evenings at Bamuntakrun's house. On the third day, Charu, without further warning, quietly bolted his door and fetched the padlock from her mother's spice box and locked him in so that he wouldn't go to Sonamani's house. She kept him prisoner for the whole evening, only opening the door when it was time to eat. Tarapada was angrily silent and was about to go out without eating. Then the passionate, overwrought girl clasped her hands and cried out repeatedly, "I promise you, cross my heart, that I won't do it again. Please, I beg you, eat before you go." When even this had no effect, she began to wail, means cry, and he was forced to turn back and eat. So he had to do something against his will here. Charu many times promised herself that she would behave properly towards Tarapada, that she would not annoy him again. But when Sonamani and others turned up, it put her into such a rage that she could not control herself. So, someone who was Charu's best friend, Sonamani, also became her foe because of this unexpected guest in their lives. If she was good for a few days, Tarapada would steel himself for another tempest. No one could say how the attack would come or on what grounds. There would be a mighty storm and floods of tears to follow, and after that, peace and affection again. So she was quite unpredictable and had an erratic behavior. Almost 2 years passed like this, and Tarapada had never moved himself to anyone for so long. So he had never been tied up to a particular place for so long. It was almost 2 years. Maybe his studies had a hold on him, so maybe it is his studies that held on to his place, or maybe he was changing as he grew up. And a stable existence in a comfortable house had more appeal than before. So maybe he was changing and he was not having a very aloof behavior anymore. Maybe the beauty of his study companion, even if she had been constantly bad tempered, was exerting unconscious influence. So maybe he was attracted to this study companion. So these are all reasons they say that maybe these are the reasons why he stayed at a place for so long. Meanwhile, Charu had reached the age of 11. Motilal Babu had sought out 2 or 3 good marriage offers. Now that she had reached marriageable age, he placed a ban on English books and outside visits. So look at the reality of society. And it shows that in the past, women, when they reached the marriage age of such a tender age of 11, they were banned from education and also going out. She kicked up a terrible fuss at these new restrictions. So she did not want these new restrictions on her. Then one day Annapurna called Motilal and said, "Why search outside for a groom? Tarapada would make a fine husband, and your daughter likes him." Motilal Babu was astonished at this suggestion. "That's impossible," he said. "We don't know anything about his family. She's my only daughter. I want to marry her well." So, until now, he wanted Tarapada to stay in his family. He treated him like his son. But when it came to the time of the alliance, he said, "I don't know anything about him and I want her to marry a good person." Some people came from the Zamindar's house at Raidanga to look at the girl. Efforts were made to dress Charu up. She shut herself in her room and refused to come out. So they tried to confine her, they tried to oppress her, but they could not control Charu. They rebuked her from outside, but without result. Finally, he had to lie to the delegation from Raidanga. His daughter had suddenly fallen ill and could not be seen today. They assumed from this lame excuse that the girl had some kind of defect. Motilal Babu started to reflect that Tarapada was indeed good to look at, good in every outward aspect. He could keep him at home, so his only daughter would not have to go to someone else's house. He realized that his truculent daughter's foibles. So, truculent is defiant. So, his defiant daughter's weakness, which he and his wife could smile at, would not be received so well by in laws. After lengthy discussion, Motilal and Annapurna sent a man to Tarapada's village to find out about his family. The information came that it was poor but high caste. Motilal Babu then sent a marriage proposal to the boy's mother and brothers. They were well pleased and agreed to it at once. Back at Katalya, Motilal and Annapurna discussed the day and hour of the wedding. But the naturally cautious Motilal kept the whole matter secret because he knew about the character of the boy. Charu, though, could not be restricted. She sometimes burst into Tarapada's room like a cavalry charge, disturbing his studies with crossness, eagerness, or scorn. Sometimes detached and independent, though he was, he felt a strange stirring in his heart at this sort of electrical impulse. Till now, he had floated lightly and serenely without impediment on time's stream. So, until now, because he was detached, he floated lightly and serenely. Sometimes now he was snared by strange, distracting daydreams. He would leave his studies and go into Motilal's library and flick through the pages of the illustrated books. The imaginary world which he mixed with these pictures was much changed, much more highly colored than before. He could not laugh at Charu's strange behavior quite as he had done in the past. When she was bad, he never thought of beating her now. This deep change, this powerful feeling of attraction was like a new dream. So now he was also feeling attracted to her. Motilal Babu fixed the wedding for the month of Shravan and sent word to Tarapada's mother and brothers. But he did not inform Tarapada himself. He told his Mukhtar in Calcutta. So Mukhtar means supervisor in Calcutta to hire a trumpet and drum band, and he ordered everything else that would be needed for the wedding. Early monsoon clouds formed in the sky. The village river had been dried up for weeks. There was water only in holes here and there. Small boats lay stuck in these pools of muddy water, and the dry river bed was rutted with bullock cart tracks. But now, like Parvati returning to her parents' home, gurgling waters returned to the empty arms of the village. Naked children danced and shouted on the river banks, jumped onto the water with voracious joy, as if trying to embrace the river. The villagers gazed at the river like a dear friend. A huge wave of life and delight rolled through the parched village. Parched means dry and thirsty. There were boats, big and small, with cargoes from far and wide. In the evenings, the ghat resounded with the sounds of foreign boatmen. The villagers along the river had spent the whole year confined to their own small world. Now, with the rains, the vast outside world had come on in its earth colored, watery chariot, carrying wonderful gifts to the villages, as if on a visit to its daughters. Rustic smallness was temporarily subsumed by pride of contact with the world. Everything became more active. The bustle of distant cities came to the sleepy region and the whole sky rang. So, until then, there was no water in the rivers were dry, people could not go travel by boat to another place, but now the rivers were gurgling again and trade had also resumed. Meanwhile, at Kurulkata, on the Nag family estate, a famous chariot festival was due to be held. One moonlit evening, Tarpada went to the ghat and saw, on the swift flood tide, boats with merry-go-rounds and jatra troops, and cargo boats rapidly making for the fair. An orchestra from Calcutta was practicing loudly as it passed. The jatra troupe was singing to violin accompaniment, shouting out the beats. Boatmen from lands to the west split the sky with cymbals and thudding drums. Such excitement. Then clouds from the east covered the moon with their huge backed sails, and east winds blew sharply. Cloud after cloud rolled by. The river gushed and swelled. Darkness thickened in the swaying riverside trees. Frogs croaked. Crickets rasped like wood saws. To Tarpada, the whole world seemed like a chariot festival. Wheels turning, flags flying, earth trembling, clouds swirling, wind rushing, rivers flowing, boats sailing, songs rising. There were rumbles of thunder and slashes of lightning in the sky. The smell of torrential rain approached from the dark distance. But Katalya village next to the river ignored all of this. She shut her doors, turned out her lamps, and went to sleep. So the entire village even if it was next to the river, ignored all of this beauty of nature, and they shut themselves out. The following morning, Tarpada's mother and brothers arrived at Katalya, and that same morning, three large boats from Calcutta, laden with things for the wedding, moored at the Zamindar's Ghat. And very early that same morning, Sonamani brought some mango juice preserves in paper and some pickle wrapped in a leaf and timidly stood outside Tarpada's room. But Tarapada was not to be seen. In a cloudy monsoon night, before love and emotional ties could encircle him completely, this Brahman boy, thief of all hearts in the village, had returned to the unconstraining, unemotional arms of Mother Earth. So before he could be trapped in this love and emotional ties forever, he went back to nature, which was unlike humans, unconstraining, unemotional. And the story ends. Such a beautiful story, isn't it? Now, there are various themes in a story. Let's discuss. So, the first is freedom versus societal expectations. So, the protagonist, who's Tarapada, wanted to lead a life of freedom and liberty, where he prioritized self discovery over settling in one particular area, which is as per societal norms. Therefore, through his life, he challenged he challenges the traditional path of family life and living in a particular place throughout his life. So, society expects us to live in a particular place throughout our life, but he challenges it, the traditional path of family life. He does not want to be tied down to any particular place by any relationship or affection. His nature in the story is described as joyous wave on life's unending stream, which signifies that he likes to always move forward without any concern for the past or the future. Therefore, his deepest need is for untethered existence and complete independence. Untethered means not bound to anything. The next is different forms of love and its tethering nature. So this story, we see different kinds of love. The story elicits different forms of love and how they act like a binding force in Tarapada's free spirit. Motilal Babu wishes to adopt him as his son, while his wife showed great longing and urge to keep him. Whereas the daughter develops strong emotions of jealousy, possessiveness, and attachment to him. His character of being wanderer resists the conventional affection of limiting freedom, and he portrays that he cannot be bound by societal norms and expectations. Also, though he enjoys the affection of villagers, he remains emotionally distant. Again, this part is important. This story makes us ponder whether love is deeply rooted in obligation or if it is freely given without any expectation in return. So, unlike nature, we, when we give love, it is deeply rooted in obligation and we always expect something in return. The next is the unconventional way of living. Tarapada exemplifies a life of detachment, unconventional way of life where he moves freely through life, unbounded by relationships or by responsibilities. He demonstrates a wanderer's life, which is in stark contrast to Motilal Babu's family, which shows a tethered and anchored existence, where they are anchored to a particular place. Changes in family dynamics with the appearance of a guest. This is pretty apparent, isn't it? Once Tarapada becomes a part of the family, their daughter Charu Shashi develops strong resentment, jealousy towards Tharpada because until then she enjoyed the full attention of her parents. This reaction shows the complexities of emotions that children face and the challenges of attention seeking and sharing love. Next, the impact of guests and hospitality. See, if we know the title of the story itself is Atiti or the guest. The title in itself portrays the concept of guest and their impact on the host family. As Tarapada's stay extends, the initial charm and warmth begins to wane away, and the host starts to feel the strain of the guest, showcasing the emotions of exhaustion, restlessness, and strained relationships in the family. The story highlights the delicate balance between personal space of the host and the guest. The next is the transient nature of relationship. Transient means fleeting nature, that is not permanent. The story shows how relationships can be temporary and how attachment, love, and relationship can clash with the desire for personal freedom, and that one cannot contain a restless spirit who yearns for self discovery. And though offered with comfort, education, and a conventional life, he cannot conform to these roles. So he was given a lot of comfort, he was given love, he was given education, but he could not conform to these roles. Though the society tried to fit him into the typical roles of a son, the student, a husband, he detached himself from it. And the disappearance on the day of his marriage shows his rejection to societal norms and shows that some people cannot be restricted or bound in particular social roles. So, those were the themes of this story. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. It was a really long story, isn't it? I'm really proud of your dedication towards your studies. May all your dreams come true. Remember that I'm praying for you. All the very best and God bless.